The carnal mind must give way to divine reason. Beloved Zarathustra, March 30, 2005. I am Zarathustra, having come through this messenger. Fire is my main quality. Fire is my element. The refraction of the teachings that we give takes place when the fiery vibrations inherent in our world come into contact with the vibrations of the physical plane of planet Earth. But you can feel the fire contained in my words even through the worlds. I have come. The state of the fiery world differs greatly from the state of your world, and the images of our world can seem unusual to your consciousness. We speak in the language of the flame, and the interpretation of our vibrations into the language of earth cannot convey the fullness of the information contained in them. However, the essence, the basis of the messages are reproduced fully enough. My arrival to you today is caused by the desire to give you a small teaching. I gave this teaching to my disciples when I was embodied on earth many thousands of years ago. Nevertheless, the value of this teaching has not yet changed. Moreover, I will tell you that very few people on earth have managed to master this teaching in its entirety. When the perfect spirit descends into the dense physical world, and this happens when the high cosmic spirits, who reached a certain degree of achievement during the preceding manvantaras, are to be embodied again in accordance with the cosmic law, then, when confronted with the dense, developed matter, there are things which occur that I must tell you about. You may have heard from other teachings or read in some books that man, from the very beginning, as he was created in the image and likeness of God, had his higher, immortal self that never forgot about its oneness with the Creator, and his lower self, which for many millions of years of embodiment on the planet lost its sense of unity with the Creator and its relationship with the higher self. However, there was a time in history when the evolution of mankind was considered as dead end and useless. Human beings were like animals and resembled humans only in their external form. It so happened that the lower creators of the form were unable to convey to man the fire that is inherent in human beings and makes them similar to God. This is the fire of reason, a divine spark that must be present in a human being. Many millions of years ago, the evolution of Earth was to be concluded as a failure. But the higher spirits, dwelling in a state of nirvana or bliss since the times of the previous manvantaras, volunteered to save the situation. These spirits had to descend into the highly organized matter and to impart to it the quality inherent in them, the aspect of fire, flame, and wisdom. They descended. They descended into the bodies of people who were essentially animals. They imparted to people the quality of fire inherent in them. And people's eyes lit up with the fire of reason. People realized that they were different from animals. Thus, each person received inside himself a seed, a spark, a fire from the highly spiritual beings who descended into matter from the higher spheres of fire. Each higher spirit gave a particle of its fire to many human beings. And each of the human beings was endowed with reason in accordance with the degree and level of his development. It was the fall into generation of the higher spirits, or angels. They descended partly under the influence of the cosmic law, partly guided by their own impulse to save the mankind of Earth from annihilation. Because humanity deprived of reason could not correspond to the divine purpose for which it was created. The flaw in humans was corrected by the sacrifice of these higher beings who sacrificed their nirvanic peace in order to descend and render help. They descended and endowed people with reason and with a part of their own properties, which were only a pale reflection of their previous merits in past manvantaras. And what about mankind? Mankind became reasonable. It acquired the right to act in accordance with its free will, the way the reason of each person dictated. And, when people realized that they were similar to gods, they began to behave like gods. They began to behave the way they thought gods should behave. They wanted to dwell in bliss and pleasure. They wanted to receive all kinds of pleasures available to them in this physical world. Human reason, when confronted with the dense, manifested world, has a dual character. This happens because those qualities of the gods dwelling in the divine world turn into their complete opposite on the plane of illusion. This is the paradox of the manifested world. And this is the plan of God for the manifested world. When the mind begins to act in the conditions of the material world, it is forced to use dense matter as a subject to which it applies its abilities. And when the mind begins to apply its abilities to the dense matter, remembering the divine world, it tries to introduce the laws of the divine world into the dense world. And since matter has very low vibrations, any quality of mind applied in the physical world can lead to the creation of the opposite of the quality that would be created as a result of such efforts in the subtle world, in the fiery world. Here is the secret. When a higher spirit descends from the fiery spheres into the lower worlds and continues to use the qualities of mind inherent in the fiery world, in matter, the result of the influence on matter does not always correspond to the divine plan precisely because of the density of matter itself. Millions of years ago, each of you who reads these lines was endowed with a spark of divine reason thanks to the descent of a particle of the higher spirits into your being who came to endow you with reason. Each of you has within himself a particle of these masters called by various names in different teachings, masters of wisdom, ascended masters, or lords of Shambhala. 7 great spirits descended. Each gave a particle of himself to millions of human souls. People received the opportunity to live and evolve. Each of the human beings received a particle of a high soul within himself that became his inner teacher, his guardian angel, or his Christ self. And now it is impossible to distinguish where the animal part of a human ends and where his spiritual element begins. Man is constantly forced to fight with his animal nature and constantly aspire to the spirit. But sooner or later, the day will come when man will win a victory over the animal dwelling inside of him, over his passions, his ego, and will enable the spirit to take supremacy over himself. And man will no longer be a lower man, a mixture of animal and human. The beast will be subdued, and man will become similar to God. The spark of reason, burning in the temple of each man, is smoldering now, and many are close to extinction or have already gone out. Therefore, this teaching is being given and these instructions are being provided in order for this spark to flare up. The animal man must give way to the divine man. The perishable man must give way to the imperishable. The carnal mind must give way to divine reason. Will happen. Because the spark and the flame inside of you will give you no rest until it happens. You will be rushing about, you will be seeking. You will be aspiring to find in the physical world the state of nirvana that is remembered by the particle of the highest beings in you. You will be seeking this state everywhere on earth. But you will never find it in the physical plane. And then when you realize that nothing in this world attracts you anymore, when you give up any attachment to this world, you will acquire the true nirvana and an opportunity to receive bliss in unity with the higher part of yourself, and through it with the creator of this universe. Until then, you will fight, you will suffer, you will rush about and you will seek. And you will find your source, your victory, and your bliss. And then the particles of the higher beings within you will receive an opportunity to merge together, and they also will be free from the shackles of matter that have been binding them for millions of years. I have given you the teaching that I gave to my disciples thousands of years ago. New religions and teachings have come since then. But now is the time to give you back the knowledge of your history. This knowledge will help you take a different look at yourself and the struggle that is taking place in your world. I am Zarathustra, and I am standing in the flame of unity.